I went to check on my RV, which is currently being stored at our land, and the refrigerator wasn't on. We had battery power and we had 110 power. This inverter is supposed to allow it to run off of 110 power when it's plugged in and has shore power. And when you lose shore power, it's supposed to fail over and then use battery power to run whatever's plugged into this up to 1,000 watts and surge rating of 2,000 watts. So this one is a pure sine wave inverter. It is PD 1610AJ and it came with our RV. This inverter specifically runs our refrigerator. The idea was the solar panels on the roof would keep the batteries charged, which would keep 12-volt power available, and then this would be able to run the residential refrigerator that's in it. But it didn't do either one of those jobs. It wouldn't run it on 110 or 12 volt because it was giving an error. And I turned it off, made sure all the connections were good, everything looked right, turned it back on, it was still giving an error. So today, I am going to test and hopefully find out what is wrong with this inverter. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it repairable? What do I need to do with this? So I'm going to dig in and show you what I will do to test it. All right, so this is what I've got set up. I've got the positive and the negative for the 12 volt side hooked up to these two 12.8 volt, 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate lifetime batteries. And to test that, I got the multimeter. We're getting 13.22 volts. Then I have the power cord here connected to 110 volt AC power. We can test that. 121.1 volts going in. So we've got 12 volt DC power going in and we've got 110 AC power going in. So it's being supplied with both types of power. So now no matter what, it should be able to put out 1,000 watts AC power through the inverter. All right, so I turn it on and I'm getting E-5. That's an error. And when I looked up that error, it says there is some kind of fault going on with the inverter itself. The E5 went away, but it's blinking fault. So the directions tell you to try to turn it off and turn it back on and reset the fault. So I'm gonna click and hold to turn it off. It's off. I'm gonna click it to turn it back on. We're still getting E-5. So now that I've turned it on, I found that it's got the E5. I've reset it to what they said to do in the manual. It still comes back with E5 and this blinking fault. Now I'm gonna look, is there anywhere on this where it's got fuses? So I did look all the way around it. It's blank on both sides. All it has is these heat dissipating fins on the sides out of aluminum. And then on this side, the only thing it has is fans. On the bottom, nothing. It's just a blank piece of metal. And this is what's on the top. Now this little panel here comes off because this is how you access, the ports. You can't put the positive and negative or the output here on unless you take this little panel off, because the screws and everything to tighten it down and the little snaps to tighten down the 110 out is all right here under this panel. This is meant to be accessible. Now, when you pull this panel off, you'll also see a bunch of 30 amp fuses down there. So now what I'm going to do with the multimeter is I'm going to test, is there anything coming in on those 30 amp fuses? Maybe we just have some blown fuses. Let me test that out. So blade fuses that are in here are typically 12 volt or some kind of DC voltage type of fuses. They're not typically used for AC power. So I'm going to turn this over to my 20 volt DC power selection. So I'm going to pop up this multimeter so we can see that in the video. Then I'm going to take the negative and I'm going to touch it here to the earth ground. Then I'm going to go to these fuses and I'm going to test each pole. So on a blade fuse, on the top of the fuse, you're going to have two little exposed dots of metal. Those are the blades. If you test one and it's hot and you test the other and it's hot, that means the fuse is good. If you test one and it's hot and you test the other and it's not hot, that means the fuse is bad. That means it's broken and it did what it needed to do by blowing the fuse. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test this 30 amp fuse. And I am getting nothing on one pole. I go to test the other pole and I'm getting nothing on either one of the poles of this fuse. I'm going to go to the next. Nothing, nothing. So I'm getting no power on the next 30 amp fuse. No power to that 30 amp fuse. No power to that 30 amp fuse. And no power to that 30 amp fuse. So what that tells me there is that no power is even getting to the 12 volt side of these fuses. Now, there is another fuse in here that looks like a 110 fuse. It's over here on this side, right here. That is a fuse and it could have blown, But the problem on that one is it does not look replaceable. But I'm still going to test it to see if we get power going through. But I'm going to switch it over to AC to see if I get anything. Go back to grounding it. Get nothing on this side, and I get nothing on this side. So whatever that fuse is protecting still isn't giving out power. Nowhere else in here do I see more fuses. So the first thing that leads me to believe is this fault that is flashing is actually something wrong with the board, somewhere on the board, that they do not want us to mess with. And just to make sure that no power is actually coming out of this plug, which should be AC power, I just use this in so I can easily put these prongs in it. But again, it's 0. So nothing's coming out. There's something definitely wrong with this. There's nothing serviceable that I see. Normally they would have it in a compartment if it was serviceable. So at this point, the reasonable thing to do would either, one, call the Progressive Dynamics company, get their tech support hotline, whatever it is, and see if they can help you troubleshoot to see if there's something maybe else that's going on, or just replace it. So that's what we're doing with this one. I'm just going to replace it, but I'm going to go ahead and tear this thing down and see if there's just anything that I can do with it. At this point in the video forward, actually even some of this other stuff that I've done, don't do it. Be careful. All the disclaimers, this is electricity we're dealing with. This is hot electricity right now. I've got everything plugged in, but I am going to go ahead and tear this thing down further because I want to know what is going on. All right, so I took about 5 minutes or so to tear this down. I didn't actually get too far into it before I think I found what the issue is. I did take off this portion here, which was on top, and it just had some wires that plugged in. It actually has these wires that plug, and also these wires that plug this. They plugged in here. But everything seemed to check out okay here, so I took the bottom plate off just to see if there was anything obvious here. And there was. This was basically all black right here, which to me said, okay, something burnt. And I cleaned it off a little bit just with my finger, and you can see what looks like it used to be on this printed board. This used to look like it went together. So kind of like you see these, pieces of metal on the board here, they go. Well, that's how the board routes the power and everything through this. Well, I believe that this part here shorted, or something happened here, it blew. There used to be a piece of solid metal here which connected the power to all of that, and it looks like it somehow blew, arced. I don't know what happened with it. Personally, it was probably not printed well. The board might have had a problem here. To me, this is a defect because I didn't see anything that would have made it arc or, cause a ground or burn. So this looks like it literally just fried, and that was it. Now, all it was running on this was a refrigerator. We didn't have any extra things on it, but the refrigerator that's in there is just a regular residential refrigerator. So even when it first kicks on, it may peak up to 1,000 watts or so, and then it's going to drop down to probably 200 to 300 watts. I'm assuming, because I've tested other refrigerators before. I don't know why it would put even near a harsh load on this to cause something like that. So I personally believe this was defective, but it's out of the manufacturer's warranty anyway. I don't think they're going to help me. I probably will still give them a call to see if they will help me, but probably not. I'm going to go ahead and get on order one of these. And if for some reason they do repair this for me or do send me a part to fix it, then I'll have a spare. But I need to get the refrigerator running properly again. Right now I have it just plugged in, so it's running fine, but I want it to work the way it was intended to. So that's it. That's how I went in and looked at this. Test everything based upon just normal safe practice. But if you're like me and you want to know exactly what happened, you can tear this stuff apart. I did unplug everything. So I took off the battery power and the AC power. I unplugged everything. So this is not hot. It allowed me to get in here and look at this. But be safe. This is electrical. Don't hurt yourself trying to figure something out. Anyways, hopefully these tips will help somebody else who's having a problem like this. I hope all of this information was helpful, and thank you very much for watching. Y'all take care.